I'm Teisha with Shalom TV's News Update. In what appeared to be a response to comments attributed to President Obama, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israelis will determine the country's best interests. The Prime Minister made his remarks at an army base on Wednesday, the day after Bloomberg journalist Jeffrey Goldberg's column ran, which stated that when Obama was told about Israel's plans to go ahead and build in the controversial E1 area, quote, Obama said privately and repeatedly, Israel doesn't know what its own best interests are. Netanyahu, in what seemed to be a response to those comments, which the White House has neither confirmed or denied, said, only the Israeli people will determine who best represents the state of Israel's vital interests. Netanyahu further stated that over the past 4 years, Israel has faced great diplomatic pressure regarding curbing action on Iran, withdrawing back to 1967 lines, dividing Jerusalem, and to stop building in Jerusalem. The Prime Minister said, we fought against those pressures. I will continue to safeguard Israel's vital interests for its security. The IDF is looking into the recent shooting deaths of 2 Palestinians. Military police have launched investigations into 2 separate incidents that happened over the last few months. The first near Ramallah in November during a violent riot where dozens of Palestinians threw rocks at Israeli security forces who responded with crowd dispersal means. Palestinian sources claim that following the clashes, a Palestinian man died of gunshot wounds. The second case happened this past Tuesday when a Palestinian youth near the village of Bordeaux was trying to cut through the West Bank security fence. IDF soldiers reportedly shouted warnings and fired shots in the air in that incident. The IDF has said they are looking at both cases. Bulgaria's Foreign Minister Nikolai Mladenov made a surprise visit to Israel Thursday to brief leaders on Bulgaria's investigation into last July's bombing in Burgas that killed 5 Israeli tourists and a Bulgarian bus driver. Mladenov reportedly met with Israel's President Shimon Peres, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and with National Security Advisor Yaakov Amidror, but no information from the visit has been released. Israel maintains that Hezbollah was responsible for the terror attack with backing from Iran. The Bulgarians are expected to issue their final report on the investigation in the next few weeks. The conclusions of the report could impact whether the European Union adds Hezbollah to its list of terrorist organizations, which the United States did back in 1999. Jewish groups who have fought to prevent gun violence expressed their support for and commended President Obama's recent gun control proposals. They also urged quick legislation to see them implemented. The National Council of Jewish Women said since the assassinations of Robert Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the late 1960s, public sentiment has waxed and unfortunately waned on the wisdom and urgency of regulating guns. We must not lose this moment to act in the wake of the grievous tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut. Rabbi Gerald Skolnick, President, and Rabbi Julie Schoenfeld, Executive Vice President of the Rabbinical Assembly, the international umbrella organization for conservative rabbis, echoed the sentiment and also brought attention to the country's mental health system, which they said was long neglected and inadequate. They said we mustn't allow the tragedy in Newtown to further misperceptions about mental illness fueled by fear, but instead we must engage in a comprehensive overhaul of the ways in which mental health services are made available to those who need them. B'nai B'rith International reiterated their calls for meaningful and bipartisan gun regulation. Rachel Laser, Deputy Director of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, said they looked forward to a full review of the proposal and also mentioned an upcoming event where members of faith communities across the country will demand congressional action, the Interfaith Call to Prevent Gun Violence, which will take place on February the 4th. And finally, today, the Jewish Week reports that a new Jewish day school for children with learning and developmental delays is set to open in New York in 2014. It is the initiative of the director of JCC in Manhattan's nursery school, Ilana Ruskay-Kidd, who is the daughter of UJA Federation of New York's Executive Vice President and CEO, John Ruskay. Ruskay-Kidd, who has served as director of the nursery school for 7 years, said she had seen too many of her graduates from the nursery school, which has an inclusion program for children with special needs, unable to continue their Jewish education. She plans to step down from her current position this June to begin to lay the groundwork for the new school, which would be the first of its kind in New York and is believed to be the first standalone special needs pluralistic Jewish day school in North America. And that's Shalom TV's News Update. I'm Teisha Bader.